Miscalculations by Margaret Rumbold of Gladesville, 2111. Narrated by Janine Penfold. It's a cool, late afternoon on the rural outskirts of Sydney. The breeze has swept away the curtain of smoky haze to reveal a clear view of the distant blue mountains. I'm sitting on a park bench with the youngest person in my life. For once, he's quiet and pensive, scooped into my lap and leaning into me. This vigorous, busy toddler, more robust than his siblings at a similar age, arrived when I'd assumed I was through with grandparenting small people. 2 years had sped by since his glowing parents announced his impending arrival. It was a little startling. He was slated to appear when his sister was about to turn 8 and his brother well on the way to 10. Previously, their lives and ours had been neat and predictable. But now, all was overturned as onesies, change tables and nappies were hastily assembled for a comeback and squeezed into the quickly converted playroom. The news had set us buzzing. It came at a time when I'd just begun to realise that I might never hold a baby again, a thought that prompted a surprising pang. Learning that another person was on his way to join us injected a thrill of excitement and wonder as we mentally prepared for a rerun of babyhood, and the countdown began. The months scampered by until the due date came and went. Number 3 was clearly in no hurry. As the days ticked by, we set up camp in his parents' living room on an inflatable bed so they could dash if he decided to arrive suddenly. When I woke in the early hours of the morning to soft footsteps, urgent whispers, and a quick message that they were leaving now, I lay still, caught up in wonder at the urgency of impending birth and the deep and sobering miracle of new life approaching. But there were hours to go, and as the routines of the day began, we kept busy breakfasting his slightly subdued siblings and delivering them to school, all the while praying and anxiously awaiting news. Eventually, the longed-for phone call came, and early that evening, we ushered 2 wide-eyed children into a hospital room to meet the swaddled bundle of humanity that was their new brother. They were, and remain, besotted. His birth was another reminder of the mystery it is to be human and bound tightly by the cords of love. And yet, I had more to learn about the privilege it is to witness and revel in a new life. When the time came at the start of 2020 for my daughter-in-law's return to work, I hesitated at the prospect of caring for this small person 1 day a week. In the first 10 months, we had admired obligation-free. But as the prospect of losing a day in my week loomed closer, I grew apprehensive. It felt like going backwards. I was losing me time. Plans would have to be reset. It was a long way to travel. It meant a very early start each Friday. At times, this reluctant recruit even caught herself carefully calculating, even wishing away the extra years for which she would be back caring for a small child. How many years until he would head to preschool and then school? But of course, always be careful what you wish for. My calculations were soon turned completely upside down. After just 3 weeks, our newly resumed routine ground to a halt. I'd had just enough time to rediscover the privilege of caring for a small person, of being back into the morning routines, of listening to school readers and spelling lists, of walking the older ones up to school, of joining in kids' random, wacky conversations. Suddenly, the pleasure of seeing the latest project, the veggie patch, the mastery of the new bike was snatched away. By mid-March, The New South Wales health warning could no longer be ignored. Grandparents should avoid contact with grandchildren, since we were deemed at greater risk of this virus that had lobbed in to scatter about our careful plans. Now, confined to barracks, there was to be no more heading off in the dark on Friday mornings, and suddenly, what I'd slightly resented and just learned to value was gone. Poof! Now I had plenty of me time. I had 7 interminable months in which to learn what really matters. At last, we returned to our Friday duties to revel once more in the world of the young. Sitting with this tired toddler on my lap, remembering the joy of sharing Charlotte's Web with my granddaughter this morning, I realise I am deeply grateful and content. I am grateful for new life and for growing lives and all their messy fun. Grateful for the privilege of contributing to young lives, of fooling about in playgrounds, of the insistent tug of trusting small hands, and even the cheeky grins and sassing back and forth about whether thongs are okay for a walk to the park. I'm immeasurably blessed. I have the luxury of time and good health, and am deeply content, having learned that hours spent with the young are never wasted. The end.